Myself, Dr. B.J.D. Kalyani, working as Associate Professor in the Department of Computer Science Engineering of Aeronautical Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. In this video, I will discuss regarding software testing methods. The topic learning outcome of this is the student would able to understand the fundamentals related to the software testing process. What are the various types of software testing? What are various approaches, methods? What is the various levels of software testing and software testing life cycle? And this topic is mapped to the course outcome of CO5, which is explain various testing approaches and automation tools. The basic agenda of this video is the fundamentals of software testing, types of software testing, testing approaches, testing methods, the levels of testing, and software testing life cycle. What is software testing? Software testing is the process of evaluating the functionality of the application to be developed. The functionality is specified in the software requirement document. It is defined at the earlier phases of the development life cycle during the analysis phase. So, the functionality must be defined in the SRS, and here the software test engineer can execute the application and whether the application is behaving according to the specified functionality in the SRS. So, the main objective of software testing is to compare the actual function results with the expected functionality to ensure that the software applications is free of defects and ready to use. So, in order to enhance the quality of the software testing process is used, and here the quality can be generally referred as justification or fulfillment of all requirements. So, the testing process is used to evaluate the software quality. And here the testing provide independent information about quality of software, and it avoids the risk of its failure to a user or sponsor. So this process is called the software testing process. And here a good test must have process some few characteristics that it should be high probability of finding an error. The main objective of software testing process is in order to identify the bugs in the software. So, the good test should have high probability of finding an error, and it should not be duplicated or redundant. And the test must be best of breed. It must focus on the functional requirement of the objective to test. And a good test should be neither too simple nor too complex. These are the basic characteristics of the software test. So, a good test should identify the defects. So, in order to avoid the risk of failure to the user. And the best practices for the software testing is understand requirement clearly. So, SRS helps a lot, and the requirements must be mutually agreed. Those can be documented in the SRS. So, these requirements can be clearly understood so that it can be implemented and tested clearly. So, the basic fundamental requirement for initiating testing process is understand requirements clearly. After understanding, for testing that functionality of the requirement, the planning activity must be carried out. Here, the planning generally involves the estimation of what resources schedules that are required and what type of testing must be implemented to test the functionality, and whether you go for automation tools or with manual testing the functionality is verified. All these activities must be carried out and can be planned in the planning testing activities. Next practice is develop robust test cases. The test case is with all possible inputs, the software functionality can be tested. So here the test cases can look into and cover each and every corner of the functionality and explore the errors in order to find the functionality of the software, and automate where possible. Various automation testing tools are available. So choose the correct tool to verify the functionality of the software. Conduct different types of testing. Variety of testing are available like smoke test, stress test, performance test, load test. Levels of testing are there, unit test, integration test. So depending upon the requirement functionality to verify and to detect the bugs, which type of testing are suitable, that must be selected here in these activities. Later, defect must be tracked. After identification of defects, those defects must be posted in the defect profile so that the defect can be properly tracked, and the defect must be closed by following the defect life cycle. And metrics and reporting. So here, according to the CMM and various standards, each work in the company can be quantified or measured. So, for the testing process also, variety of metrics can be used. These come under generally the severity and priority. So, best practices for the software testing can focus on all these objectives. And here two varieties of testing are generally available. One is manual testing, second one is automation testing. The manual testing is not using any tool. So, the process of checking functionality of an application as per customer need without taking any help of automation tool. So, variety of test cases are used. By using these test cases without executing with the help of automation tool, the errors can be identified. So while performing manual testing on any application, software test engineer do not need any specific knowledge or any testing tool. So without this testing tool, the testing process can be conducted. So proper understanding of the product or preparation of the test document is highly concentrated in the manual testing. On the other hand, another variety of testing is the automation testing. Automation testing is the process of converting any manual test cases into test scripts. So, by using with the help of any automation testing tool, the conversion of manually written test cases into test scripts can be carried out in case of automation testing. So, with the help of automation testing, test engineer can enhance the speed of test execution. So, the tool helps a lot for converting test cases into test scripts. So, the speed of test execution can be improved in case of automation testing as compared with the manual testing. Variety of automation tools are available. Few popular tools are Selenium, JMeter, QTP, Windrunner, and TestLink. Here, these tools are categorized as test management tools, functionality testing tools, and performance testing tools. Here, test link, test director are the few tools that can be used for test management purpose. And Selenium, QTP, JMeter are used as a functionality testing tools. Load runner is used as a performance testing tool. So, with the help of these tools, the test engineer can improve the speed of test execution and can easily convert the manual test cases into the test scripts. Three varieties of testing approaches are available. They are white box testing, black box testing, and grey box testing. White box testing is generally used and consider the program structure and the testing of software that is predicated on close examination of procedural details. So the program logic must be considered here as an important role in the white box testing. So the logical paths through the software and collaboration between components are tested by exercising specific set of conditions and loops. So the programming structures are tested here in the white box testing. So the white box testing is based on applications internal code structure. The program structure, loops, conditions, case statements are considered and each path of conditions and loops must be exercised in case of white box testing. The white box testing, an internal perspective of the system as well as the programming skills are to be used to design the test cases. So the structure of the program and basic notations that can be used to represent this structure is the statements, if conditions, the loops and case statements are considered and each path of the program execution can be exercised once in order to find the defects in case of white box testing. The next variant is black box testing. Black box testing is a software testing method in which the tester evaluates the functionality of the software. So the major focus in case of black box testing is to test the functionality of the software. So it does not consider the internal code structure. So the program can be treated as black box and the required input is supplied to the black box whether the expected outcome or the functionality is achieved or not is verified in case of black box testing. So it is also called behavioral or specification based input output testing. So here the requirement or functionality is concentrated without considering the programming logic. So black box testing is majorly focused on the tests that are conducted at the software interfaces, how user is interacted with the software and whether he is receiving the expected functionality or output is focused in case of black box testing. And the third variety of testing is grey box testing. It is the combination of both white box and black box testing. So here the tester who works on this type of testing need to have access to the design document. So the design document provides the blueprint for the combination or the relation between various objects and classes in the application. So the interface between the modules and the deployment architectures must be described visually with the help of design document. So to perform the grey box testing, the design document and SRS plays the major role. So this helps to create best test cases in this process with the help of these two documents. So the gray box tester need to have some programming skills in order to perform the white box testing as well as the black box testing to test the functionality. So the both combinations are generally referred as gray box testing. So here we can compare the three approaches of the software testing: the black box testing, gray box testing and white box testing. So here the internal working of application is not be known in case of black box testing. Only the required interfaces must be taken care and the functionality is tested in case of black box testing. In case of gray box testing, the tester has limited knowledge of internal working of the application. Why? Because it is combination of both white box and black box. So few programming skills must be required to exercise the path of the program or the logic of the program. In case of white box testing, the tester has full knowledge of the internal working of the application, so as the test engineer can test the logic of the program clearly. And the another names of black box testing are closed box testing, data driven testing and functional testing. For the gray box testing, it is known as transient testing, and here the inside application logic knowledge or the programming skills are basic requirement for the gray box testing. And white box testing is also known as clear box testing, structural testing or code based testing. And the role who perform black box testing is generally performed by the end user or by tester and the developer. And the gray box is generally performed by the end user and also by tester developer. And white box testing is normally done by the tester and developer. And testing is based on external expectations. The internal behavior of the application is unknown in case of black box testing. But testing is done on the basis of high-level database diagrams and data flow diagrams. So the entire flow of application can be visually captured by the gray box tester so that the internal behavior as well as external behavior of the application can be verified by the gray box tester. Internal working of fully known and the tester can design test data accordingly in case of white box testing. So it is purely based on the control flow and the logic flow of the program in case of white box testing. In black box testing, it is an exhaustive and least time consuming. But in case of gray box testing, partly time consuming and exhaustive. In case of white box testing, most exhaustive and time consuming in this type of testing. And this black box testing is not suitable for algorithm testing. Why? Because the internal code and programming structures are not considered. In case of gray box testing, it is not suitable for algorithm testing. But white box testing is purely suitable for algorithm testing. And the black box testing is done by trial and error method. Data domains and internal boundaries can be tested in case of gray box testing. Data domains and internal boundaries can be better tested in case of white box testing. So this is the comparison between the three approaches of the software testing. Next, we are moving to the levels of testing. There are 4 levels of testing: unit testing, integration testing, system testing and acceptance testing. So unit testing generally tests the individual component. Integration testing tests integrated components. Testing the entire system or whole system is generally referred as system testing. Testing the final system with the user is generally referred as acceptance testing. The first level of testing is the unit testing. Unit testing used to test if software modules are satisfying the given requirement or not. So here the independent component of the programs are called modules. Whether they are providing the required functionality or not, the verification is done at the unit testing. So it is best example of black box testing approach. The primary purpose of executing unit testing is to validate unit components with their performance. Unit test will help the testing engineer and developer in order to understand the base of code that makes them able to change defect causing code quickly. So to identify the defects quickly, the unit testing can be helped for the testing engineer. So majorly the functionality of this independent component of the application development is concentrated in the unit testing. The second level of testing is integration testing. After units are independently tested, they are integrated. So the test must be concentrated in integration testing. The data flow from one module or component to other module. So the data interfaces, the argument passing, the return parameters, whether received correctly or not, the data sharing between the integrated modules are closely exercised in case of integration testing. So the testing engineer tests the units or separate components or modules of the software in a group and they are integrated and perform the integration testing. The primary purpose of executing the integration testing is to identify the defects, interaction between integrated components and the data sharing, parameter passing between the components. Majorly, three types of integration approaches are used: top-down integration, bottom-up integration, and sandwich integration. After integration testing, the next level of testing is system testing. So the third level of software testing is the system testing. After the modules are integrated, testing the whole system is generally referred as system testing. So here the functional requirement as well as the non-functional requirements are concentrated. Here the end-to-end testing where the testing environment is parallel to the production environment. So system testing is a sequence of different varieties of tests to implement and examine entire working of integrated software computer system against the requirement. Variety of tests can be performed here. Not only the functional requirement, the non-functional requirements can also be concentrated in case of system testing. So variety of tests that are used to test the non-functional requirement at system testing are security testing, deployment testing, stress testing, and recovery testing. And the last level of testing is the acceptance testing. So here, in case of acceptance testing, the testing engineer used to evaluate whether a specification or requirement are met as per its delivery. So the user can, in the presence of user, the acceptance test can be carried out and whether the specification or requirement is satisfied as per delivery or not is verified in case of acceptance testing. So minor errors can still be identified when the end user uses the system in the actual scenario. So here acceptance test is majorly used to squeeze all the testing process that are previously done. And here the types of testing that can be performed is alpha testing and beta testing. So these are the various levels of testing as unit testing, integration testing, system testing and acceptance testing. Next, what is the software testing process? The testing process can be carried out with the help of software testing lifecycle. The software testing lifecycle is abbreviated as STLC, can include variety of phases. This STLC clearly explains what activities is carried out in order to perform the software testing of an application. So, the systematic manner or well-planned manner how these testing activities can be carried out is explained with the help of STLC. All activities are performed with an aim of improving quality of the software product. The variety of phases of software testing lifecycle are the requirements and design review is the first phase of STLC, test planning is the second phase, test designing is the third phase, test environment setup is the fourth phase, test execution is the fifth phase, test reporting is the sixth phase. So, in the requirement and design review is the first phase of the STLC. In this phase, the project requirement can be clearly understood and analyzing the testable features from these SRS and define clear objectives for the testing. And it provides the framework for entire testing procedure. So, the core aim of this phase is to deeply understand the things that need to be tested and define clear testing objectives. The requirements that can be testable from the SRS can be identified and the test objectives can be identified during the first phase of the STLC. The second phase is test planning. During test planning phase, the detailed test plan outlines what are the testing approaches as we discussed earlier, either the white box, black box or gray box. What are the testing objectives? What is the test scope? How to schedule the test? What resources that are required for the testing process is estimated in case of test planning. So, with the help of this phase, the test engineer can assess the potential risk and plan their mitigation. So, it helps business to stay organized, allocate resources effectively, and provide a comprehensive test coverage. And in this phase, majorly discussing about variety of tests and whether what type of testing must be done for the requirements, whether it is manual testing or automation testing. If automation testing, what tool is suitable for this functionality testing? Next phase of the life cycle is test design. Based on the requirement, thorough test cases and test scenarios are crafted. So, test case design is the major motto here, and these test cases are converted into test scripts in this phase. So, the main goal is used to all available methods to provide complete test coverage is the major objective of this phase. And this phase helps analyze expected outcome and define steps to validate them. The validation of requirement is done in case of test design phase. So test cases are designed in the test design phase. A test case is a set of instructions for the tester to follow to verify that a software application features are working as intended. So with all possible inputs, the requirements must be verified here. So test cases are used in software engineering to define a single test by specifying the input, execution, conditions, testing procedure, and expected results. So, it helps the tester to evaluate the software behavior and identify the defects early in the development life cycle. So, test case can have a predefined template. So, this is the test case template. The test case name or ID, test case type, requirement number, module. The severity is the measure. So we will discuss that severity. Next, status, the release version, precondition, test data summary. Here we have to concentrate on the description, what requirements we are testing, what inputs we are giving, what is the expected result. While designing the test case, the expected results must be recorded. After execution and availability of the code, what results are getted uh, during execution, what results are got, those are generally referred as actual results. If this expected result and actual result both are same, then the test status is pass. Otherwise, if the expected result and actual result both are not same, then the test status is fail. The failed cases are treated as defects. Those defects must be written in defect profile or test report. So this is the sample of the test case. Here we are checking the browser and the URL is entered. So then the web page is opened. Then the test is the expected result and the actual result both are the same. So the status of the test is pass. In case of any password mismatch, if the expected result is different from the actual result, then the test case is failed. So, in this way, the test cases are used in order to identify the defects in the software. Next phase of the SDLC is test environment setup. Before executing the test, the setup of the test environment plays the vital role. So, it indicating to decide the hardware, software, and data requirement for execution of the test. To get the most appropriate finding, this phase ensures that testing environment closely resembles the production environment. After environment is set up, tests can be executed. So in this phase of the life cycle, the tests are executed and on the planning resources, and the outcome of the test must be taken into account where the actual output of the test results come into, and if the expected output is same as the actual output, then the status can be passed, otherwise the status can be failed. These failed cases can be identified as flaws. So it helps business to identify any issues or bugs present in the software. So the identified bugs can be posted in the defect profile. So these defect tracking logs and tracks them to ensure proper resolution. The bugs identified can be properly resolved. So this phase involves documenting all bugs or faults that are identified, prioritizing them, collaborating with the development team, and timely fixes these defects. So this is the final phase. In this, test reports are generated that provide insights into the testing progress and test coverage, defect metrics, and overall software quality can be assessed. So these reports help the stakeholders to make informed decisions and assess the readiness of the software for the release. So the metrics plays the major role in the testing process. So the defect metrics are generally two metrics are used. One is severity, second one is priority. What is severity means? It can use to assess the impact of the bug on the application. Variety of severity levels are generally used. That are blacker, critical, major, minor for the bug. What is blagger severity means? If the application is stopped for navigation, so it is the severely impacting the application, so it can be categorized under blagger severity. Critical means if the required functionality of the application is not producing, then the severity level is generally defined as critical. Major means if the modules are not properly integrated, the interface errors are generally considered in the major severity. Minor means the cosmetic errors, the font, color, look and feel errors are generally comes under the minor severity levels. So according to the bug identified, the severity levels can be measured, which can use to assess the impact of this defect on the application. The second matrix that can be used for the software testing process is priority. So here bug is identified. So ranking these bugs, how to solve the mechanism is defined with the help of priority. So fixing the bug or which bug to be fixed first. So how soon the bug should be fixed. This can be defined with the help of priority. Variety of priority levels are available. They can be urgent, high, medium and low. So urgent can have the high priority. High is having somewhat low priority of urgent and high priority of medium. Like that, the scale of the bug identification fixing can be defined with the help of priority. And what is the difference between this severity and priority? The severity generally determines the defect's effect on the application, but priority determines the defect urgency of repairing or defect removal. Severity is how bad the defect is identified, but priority identifies how soon we need to fix the bug. Severity is given by the QA tester. Priority is given by the test lead or the project manager. So the levels of severity are generally blocker or critical. So software will not be run. High, unexpected fatal errors. Medium, a feature is malfunctioning. Low means a cosmetic issue. In case of priority levels, P1 fixes before next build to test. P2 fix before final release. P3 the probably won't get to this. So the ranking of the fixation of defect is generally identified and indicated with the priority levels. So in this video, we discussed about the fundamental concepts of the testing and what are the phases of the testing, what are varieties of testing, what metrics are used to measure the testing process. And these are the references that are used in this video. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.